Benvenuti alla 10ª edizione di Resistere. Coloro che ci permettono di riunirci ogni anno per 4 entusiasmanti giornate sono i nostri sponsor, che voglio ringraziare dal profondo del cuore. AGB, Vimar, Mevis, Ecoricerche che quest'anno festeggia i 40 anni di attività, CMP, Bordignon Group, Nicola Vallardi Private Banker, Baxi, Uber Group, Gruppo Ottica Fontanesi, BBM Group, Olnex, Poli 1898, Fabio Gobbato, MAG, Solare, Finlab, Mubre, Scenario Outdoor e Fondazione Fospac. Grazie veramente da parte di tutti quanti. Un grazie speciale va a Mara Bisinella, responsabile dell'ufficio stampa che ci affianca dalla prima edizione e che quest'anno in particolar modo è stato un aiuto prezioso. Due anni fa Mario Calabresi ci incantava in una indimenticabile e magica serata parlandoci di fotografia. Da allora con le mie sorelle abbiamo perseguito il sogno di avere con noi uno dei più grandi creatori di immagini di sempre. Questa sera insieme a voi, qui in questa piazza meravigliosamente gremita, realizziamo quel sogno. E lo facciamo nel migliore dei modi insieme all'amico Mario Calabresi.
Grazie. Buonasera. Oggi faremo un viaggio speciale, un viaggio insieme a Steve McCurry, un viaggio lungo tutta una vita. Sarà un viaggio dentro le sue fotografie. Cercheremo di capire come sono nate e quale sia il suo segreto, perché le sue foto sono, se le guardate, così intime, così capaci di parlare a tutti, da creare l'impressione di essere figlie dell'istinto, quasi casuali, o figlie del talento di cogliere al volo ciò che accade nel mondo. Però questa impressione è un'illusione. Steve McCurry infatti non è solo talento, ma è metodo. Le foto più famose di Steve McCurry non sono quasi mai figlie di un colpo di fortuna, ma sono frutte di un lavoro maniacale che può durare dei giorni o anche delle settimane solo per fare un'immagine. Tutto il tempo necessario per catturare un'atmosfera magica. Questo senza preoccuparsi della fatica, dei disagi, dormendo per terra, bevendo acqua sporca, camminando per ore al buio e portandosi addosso, e li ha ancora addosso, sulla sua schiena, i segni delle sanguisughe. La freschezza e la potenza delle sue immagini sono figlie della somma di 3 caratteristiche ben precise: la pazienza, la costanza e la tenacia. Cominciamo da qui il nostro viaggio. Diamo il benvenuto a Steve McCurry e grazie per essere venuto fino a Bassano a raccontarci la sua vita. Steve. Bene, adesso io Steve McCarry vi fa una fotografia, anzi un video. Vabbè, scusate, dopo che Steve McCarry vi ha fatto un video possiamo anche andare a casa. Avete fatto la vostra serata e io la mia. Ok, Steve, let's start.
Can I first just say what a pleasure it is to, first of all, be with you again, my old friend, but also in this amazing town. This is my first time here, and it's just spectacular. I just can't wait to come back and explore it in a more deeper, thorough way. I'd like to give a special shout out to the Monfratto family for the beautiful Monfratto family, who has been such a great host and such great hospitality and a real kind of sense of friendship. So I'm actually as a photographer, of course, I've used just because it's the best tripod in the world, the Monfratto tripod. I've been using it for
Il cavalletto Monfratto
years.
è il migliore del mondo, ha detto.
Anyway, but very great gratitude for to be here, to be with you, and all these wonderful people. So this is an honor and a great privilege to be here.
Grazie. Thank you. Okay, let's start. Okay, let's start with this picture. This picture is about the light. And I would like to ask you, first of all, what is the best time of the day to shoot picture?
Well, the best time to photograph, unfortunately, is right in the beginning of the morning. This picture was made about, I would say, 20 minutes, 15 minutes before sunrise. So I'm out there starting to work before the sun rises. So I like a soft light. The problem in India is that after sunrise, it gets very bright, very hot, very intense, and it becomes very difficult to even see, but it becomes impossible, especially for color film. So, but I get out early and I work until 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, and then I go back and work inside. Yeah.
You work early in the morning and late in the afternoon.
Early in the morning, and then around 9 or 10, I'll work inside. I'll go inside a school or a temple or market or some kind of interior situation from like 10 to 2, have lunch. But then in the afternoon, I go back out around 3:30 till sunset. But in the middle of the day, it gets impossible. This is actually a great time of day to shoot because the lights are coming on. It's very magical. But around noon, impossible.
You have to be patient to wait for the perfect moment. But sometimes it's not enough. You have to wait not only one moment of the day, but days to take the right pictures. This is the example, Sri Lanka.
Well, I'm not normally a patient person, but if I'm sort of hunting for a photograph, a situation, I'm willing to wait days, go back over and over again. These fishermen in Sri Lanka, it's almost become a thing of the past. If you go there now, they still do it, but it's, they want to be paid, and it's not so, they don't do it every day. But this is more than almost 30 years ago, and they would go out in the morning when the fish were there, and then in the afternoon. But I went back over and over and over many times, waiting for the right light, so I'm just waiting for the right circumstances to fall into place. But you have to have patience. You have to be willing to, again, go back and keep being persistent. Persistence is a key element to photography, to keep pushing and keep looking, keep discovering, keep searching. Yeah, it's not easy.
This picture was taken in 1992 in Herat, Afghanistan. And how long did it take you to take this picture? And please tell us who those people are.
Well, so I wonder if we could go...
Because you see the people in the center of the picture. Did you see people? There is a group of people.
Yeah. So these are this suburb of this city, Herat, was bombed for years and years by the government and by the Russians. And at the end of the war, the refugees started to return to their homes. And so this picture is of a family who are trying to rebuild their home. And they're going to start, I guess, preparing a dinner, some food. They're going to cook and make a fire. I was there for about a week, and I walked past this scene. Can we go to the next picture? And I wanted to show you. So I walked past this every day for a week, and I saw them working and trying to rebuild. But the light was not so good, and it wasn't so magical. I shot, I kept working, and then I decided, let me try and do it after sunset. So this same view is the same place, but after the first one was like in the morning at 10 o'clock. The last one was about 15 or 20 minutes after sunset, and it's a very long exposure, but it gets very magical, the light, and everything becomes much more sort of poetic.
This is the perfect example of the importance of light. Guardate che quanto cambia questa situazione. Yeah, great.
So light, you can't express how important the quality of light is. Light is everything.
Another great example of the importance of light, I think, is this picture that was taken in Burma, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So this golden rock, which is actually painted gold, but it's very it's a place of pilgrimage. The Burmese come there from all over the country to. It's like a pilgrimage. It's like going to the Vatican or going to Mecca or something. So they come and they put gold leaf on the rock, and so I wanted to find the right time. So I shot the picture again. It was after sunset. You have these lights, big lights like this shining on it. So I got a balance between the daylight and the artificial light, and it has this wonderful feeling, like it's just kind of magical. And these are Buddhist monks that have come to pray and offer this gold leaf.
When Steve, at the end of the university, you started to work for a newspaper in Pennsylvania, a daily called Today's Post, where you started working after graduation. But when you were 28 years old, you decided to travel, and you decided to discover India, and you moved to India, and you spent 2 years in India. And I would like to ask you why you decided to change so dramatically your life and move to India.
Well, my ambition, my dream was to travel, see the world. The newspaper became very kind of boring and uninteresting, so I really wanted to have like a new adventure, and I wanted to work for magazines and National Geographic and all that. So I decided that I had to just do it without thinking about it. I just saved my money and I went because there was no alternative, there was no option. I was really kind of stuck. So I just quit that newspaper job and I started, working for myself and traveling and photographing. And every day I was working, every day shooting, and after a year and a half, things started to come together. Oh.
In 1978, after a few months of immersion in the chaos of India, you moved to Nepal, where you encountered Buddhism and started a project that would stay with you for all your life. Let's see with music some of the picture of Buddhism. Steve, tell us about your relationship with Buddhism and the work you have been doing for almost 50 years.
Well, I was, as you said, in Nepal, and I met many, I went to many monasteries and met many monks, and I was really captivated by their devotion, by their, they seemed to have a special insight and a special, there was something different about the way they moved and talked, and they had a certain sense of humor, but they also had a very direct, I just really connected with them. I thought it was a really, everything about it, the way their lifestyle and everything about it I thought was just wonderful. I spent the next, I went and visited all the Buddhist countries, Japan and Cambodia, Thailand, Bhutan. I went to see the, Bamiyan in Afghanistan and Mongolia. So I went all these places in the Buddhist world, and it's just something in which I was really, I found a peace. They were very compassionate people, so it was something I really felt connected to, or something I wanted. I found it much more peaceful than any other kind of faith that I had encountered until that point.
Great. After a year in India, in the summer of 1979, driven by the terrible summer temperatures, Steve moved into Pakistan, and until he reaches the foothills of Himalayas on the border with Afghanistan. And when you entered in Afghanistan, you discovered a really great story, and you started to cover a really great story. Tell us what you discovered in those days, and the story that you started to testify?
Well, I was in northern Pakistan, and I just happened to be in a hotel, and I heard from these refugees that there was this war happening nearby, across the mountain, sorry. And they invited me to go in and document, and I thought, this is, first of all, I'd never been to a war zone, so this doesn't seem like a good idea. And I didn't know who these guys were. I didn't know if I could trust them. And, it all seemed very, very scary, and maybe not very well advised. But I thought about it, and I thought, well, it sounds like a great adventure. So I decided to go ahead and go in. And as I entered Afghanistan, I started seeing all these destroyed villages that clearly had been bombed and destroyed, completely destroyed. And it was village after village. And I started to realize that this war was a real thing. And I spent days, ended up being some weeks. And I was listening to the BBC on the radio. And then the thing became real, became very real, because suddenly I'm inside this news story, and I'm really living it firsthand. And then I started to really become, I started to have some friendships and get to know the people. So I became really attached to the story. And when I left to go back to India and ship my film, I immediately started to think about going back. So I went back again and again and again, and it was a story that I followed for 20 years. And once you have friends and you get familiar with the story, then it really becomes kind of part of you, and you want to continue understanding and learning and trying to document the thing that you started back in the beginning.
And this story, as you can see, was published by the New York Times in the front page, and was the first stories about Taliban published by the New York Times.
Right. So in a way, it was I was in this kind of breaking news situation, a place that nobody was really knew about, and I was one of the first, I would say, photographers to be inside this story. So then suddenly I was being published. A lot of my pictures got published in the Times.
Yeah, Paris Match.
Oh yeah, all the magazines. It was unbelievable.
And for this work, you received one of the most important prizes in the world, the Robert Capa Gold Medal. Yeah. What was your reaction when you received the news that you was awarded with this great kind of prize?
Well, Robert Capa was one of probably the most famous war photographers. So to get a prize in his name was amazing. And I had gone from working on a very small, insignificant newspaper to suddenly working for, a very high-profile Time magazine at the time. And this was all in the course of about 2 years, going from this small newspaper and then getting an award. And the competition was all photographers from all over the world. So it was like a surreal kind of experience to have one day working on a small newspaper, then to suddenly have this big award. It was really incredible. And then I went from that to getting major magazine assignments, and it was really that kind of launched my career.
Great. And now, your most famous photo that tell us about an Afghan girl refugee in Pakistan.
Thank you.
The name of this girl is Sharbat Gula.
Well,
And can you tell us the story
yeah,
of this
so
picture?
there's, I'll tell you the full story, but there's been a lot of disinformation about her and the picture. The kind of we found her in 2002, and we immediately started helping her and her family. We helped her children with education, and we sent them some allowance for 20 years. And then when the Taliban came to power in, what was it, 2002 or something, she requested myself and my sister to help her immigrate somewhere in the world. She wanted to get out because she was very worried. She felt her life was in danger from the Taliban. And so we looked around, and the only country at the time that would receive her was Italy. So Italy, yeah, thank you very much. She appreciates your. So the Italian government paid for her children, some of her relatives, to come and live in Italy. All expenses paid, and all that. So very generous, very hospitable. So we've been in touch with her all these many years, but the internet is full of all sorts of poisonous information and whatnot. But the way the story began was I was doing a story on Afghan refugees in 1984, and the Afghans were desperate. They really were. They wanted their story told, and they wanted journalists and photographers to come, and they wanted to show you the situation. They wanted to take you around the country, and so it was very easy at that time to have the Afghans take you in and show you the war. So I was one of those photographers, and I went in many times, and they gave us entree to the refugee camps. They wanted the world to see what was happening to their country, and they wanted the world to see that literally millions of Afghans were being driven from their country. So this was what we wanted to document and to show, and she was one of those refugees. So I photographed her one morning in a classroom, and as soon as I saw her, I knew that look, those eyes, were just amazing and just really powerful. And I immediately recognized the power. And so then the challenge was to try and get that face in a picture on film. So I shot a number of pictures, and unfortunately it turned out to be but the light, going back to the light in the tent where I photographed in this classroom was it was beautiful. This morning light coming in, and she was wearing this sort of red shawl, and then the background was a green tent. So the color was wonderful, perfect. So it's just one of those moments that all the elements, the composition, the light, the expression, it all kind of aligned. It all kind of came together in this perfect picture.
Complimenti. "1983 was a magical year for you. one in which you carry out two extraordinary projects. First of all, India by train, and the account of the monsoon season. How did the idea of crossing India by train come about? And what are your memories about that project?
So I spent those 2 years in India, and I lived through 2 monsoons, and I traveled everywhere by either train or by bus. The train was much more comfortable than the bus. The bus was a nightmare. So I was living these stories. I spent weeks on the train, and I spent months in the monsoon. So I saw these as great dramatic stories. And when I was 12, well, first of all, the train, I have to say I read this book by a friend of mine called Paul Theroux, who wrote a book called The Great Railway Bazaar. He got on the train in London and crossed Asia, India, China, through the Soviet Union. So the whole book was about the adventure of train travel. So that book inspired me. And then this is the Taj Mahal. And then the monsoon, of course, was inspired by another. Since we have this up, I'll just talk about it. The train actually used to go very close to the Taj Mahal. There was a track, but the track's gone now, that was used to move locomotives. And I got a very long, like a telephoto lens, and I was able to compress the distance between the train and the Taj. But now the steam locomotives are gone, and the track is gone. So it's really a picture which is part of history.
I think, look at that picture. It's unbelievable. The trains are really the symbol of India, no?
And to have to travel that way for maybe 2 days, it's very difficult.
The other great project of that year was the monsoon season.
Oh yes, so this picture is from a photographer named Brian Brake. He was from New Zealand, and in about 1961, he photographed the monsoon. And it was published in 1962. So I was about 12 years old, and I remember at my grandmother's house seeing this magazine, and I was turning the pages, and I had never been anywhere. I never knew that a place like India existed, and I was really captivated. I was mesmerized by this place with all this rain, and I thought someday I want to go and see that for myself, because it seemed like an unreal place. So in 1983, I made the proposal, and I got the assignment to go and spend this time in the monsoon world. So I went to India, Indonesia, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal.
This is in Java, correct?
This is in Java, yeah.
And this is India.
Yeah, this is in India, yeah. So I went everywhere. I spent like 6 months in the rain. It was crazy. It's very difficult to shoot with an umbrella on your shoulder trying to shoot, because the water gets on your lens. It was very difficult.
But your journey started with this picture in the Rajasthan desert, correct?
Yeah.
Can you tell us about this picture?
Well,
What are they doing?
So the monsoon starts very, very hot, very dusty, and it's unbearable. So I thought, let's start the story in the heat, and it's just unbearable. The heat is just, you can't believe it. It's just, you know. So I went to Rajasthan, and there were these women who were working on the side of the road. They were doing some construction work with some shovels. And I saw this incredible dust storm come up. It just the wind and the sound, you know. And so I stopped the car, I jumped out, and I saw them kind of huddled together, kind of gathered together for protection. So I made a few pictures, and I shot maybe 30 pictures. And then suddenly the sandstorm stopped, the dust storm stopped, and then they went back to work. But for that minute or 2 minutes, it was just amazing. And then suddenly it stopped. Boom, it was over.
Okay. This is a really great picture, I think. My favorite. It was taken in Porbandar, in India. And that day, you broke your bonds and dived into that dirty water. Why did you that? Why did you decide to enter in this water, really dirty, to take pictures?
So you know, so the water is so dirty. You can imagine it's just, there's animals, all this, it's just unimaginable, unspeakable. So I decided to try and first work from just the side right here. I could just shoot like that. But the problem is that you can't get there. You want to, so I thought, well, I'll get on a boat. So I got a small boat. But then the boat was hard to move. And then I thought I'll get, these fishing waders.
Gli stivali da pescatore.
Yeah. They come up to here. Yeah. But the problem was the water got in there too. And then I thought, I have to commit. I have to have total commitment to the story. I have to, even if it kills me, I have to have total immersion in the story. I can't. Now, I have to. So everybody's walking around in the water. I got in, and I just walked in the water for days. And I just figured, whatever happens, but I have to give it my best effort. I have to try. And so I just spent at night I would come back, I'd put disinfectant. It was disgusting. It was terrible. But let me talk about this picture. So this village was flooded for 3 days. And I saw this man walking down the street, and I was on a step. He was down the street. And I saw him. So there are people in the windows. So I'm this foreigner, this white guy, and they see this guy with a camera, and they're all in the windows because there's no power, there's no electricity, and there's people standing. So they saw me getting ready to shoot this picture, so they yelled to him. They said, "Oh, he's going to take your picture. Smile for the camera, get ready." And so the man, I guess, became self-conscious. He became embarrassed, and they're all yelling and laughing and everything, trying to, And so as he's walking towards me, he has this smile on his face. His shop had been destroyed because of the water. He got this rusted sewing machine. His shop was, but even so, even though his shop and his livelihood now is finished, because of all the people yelling, he was able to have like this nervous laughter. Anyway, the sewing machine company it's called FAF. They found this guy and they sent him a new sewing machine, which was a great sort of story.
Was that picture on the front page of the National Geographic magazine, correct? Yeah. Look at the feet of the price of this picture. No, your feet.
So that I was walking, the shoes, I tried to keep the shoes clean, my feet. But and many times I had to put plastic bags because of the leeches. There are these little leeches that suck your blood.
Le sanguisughe che vi dicevo prima.
It's not dangerous, but you look down and there's blood everywhere. You know, it's terrible.
And you have the sign of today also on your back, no?
Yeah, on my back and my hair, well, my head, the blood. Oh my God, my head. You know, yeah, it was that they get in your shoes between your toes. It's awful.
Okay, let's talk about this picture. Because this picture is one of the few that you shoot by instinct.
Well, I was in a taxi in the back seat.
In Mumbai.
In Mumbai. And I'm just, these people, the woman and her child came to the window, and I just instinctively had my camera here, and I just raised my camera. I shot two pictures, just two pictures. And I forgot about it. I completely forgot about it. And when I got home, I was looking through the film, and I thought, these aren't my pictures. I thought these must be somebody else's pictures. But it had my name on it, so I thought I'll keep it. It's a nice picture.
Okay, here we have some picture that you taken around the world.
This is Brazil.
Yeah.
This is Honduras. This is Ethiopia. Wonderful country to photograph in. This is Brazil again. This is coffee, harvesting coffee beans. I thought this was funny. This is in some place in Ethiopia. They had Bob Marley and the Mona Lisa and one of their former, right there in the
La Gioconda and Bob Marley, yeah, Mona Lisa and Bob Marley.
Yeah.
Let's talk about another part of your life, war photographer. In 1991, you were in Kuwait, but you decided to take picture not about soldiers or battles, but about the environmental consequences of war. Why you decided that?
Well, it seemed to me that the thing that was getting the worst treatment, the worst outcome of this was the environment. There's not so many animals in that area. There's camels and different things, but the environment, the air pollution, the water pollution, and the Gulf, was just getting covered in oil. So to me, that seemed the catastrophic environmental disaster. To me, was like the main story. So I spent 3 or 4 weeks photographing the aftermath of this war, and there's a few people. There were they didn't have any place to go, so they had to try and make do. Yeah, I was following these camels in the jeep, and I guess the camels were looking for some water or some food, and they came right in front of that fire, and it was just, whoa. You can, yeah. These are some scientists doing some soil samples, but they have this protective gear, the respirator and all that. And I was just there with my camera, my baseball cap, and they're all protected, and I had nothing.
And this picture is really
Yeah.
famous.
This is really, yeah. So there were some horses and some cattle that were just kind of wandering around, lost. And you can imagine they're looking for water, they're looking for food, and there's nobody around to help them. It was just a really sad, very tragic situation.
Great. Thank you. In the morning of September 11, 2001, Steve was in New York and has just woken up in his Washington Square apartment. He arrived from Tibet, I think, the day before. And through the window, you can see the Twin Towers. And you saw the end of the story that started in Afghanistan 20 years before, probably, with the Taliban. Let's see some of this picture with the music of Leonard Cohen. Can you tell us about that day?
Sure. Well, as you said, I got back from Tibet the night before, and so I was tired and jet lagged. I put my cameras on the side and I went to sleep. And the next morning I got up, I went to my office, and we got a phone call that the World Trade Center was on fire. So, well, I looked out the window and I could see the smoke. So I decided to go up on the roof. But both towers were on fire. So it seemed really strange. So I went up on the roof, and at first it seemed, well, it's really bad, but it's a fire, they'll put the fire out. And then I saw the one tower collapse. And it was like my brain just couldn't process it. It was like disbelief. It felt like a complete dream, nightmare. So I photographed it, and then suddenly I looked out, and there was just smoke, and the tower was gone. And it was like this can't be happening. And so then the second tower that I started to realize that might collapse too, so I changed my lens and my film, and then suddenly that one, the second tower went down and came down, smoke cleared, and then again it was like this is impossible, that this can't be happening, because it's very close to where I lived. And then I decided that I had to go down to photograph the aftermath like this. So I got my assistant and we went down, walked down to Ground Zero and spent the day there. Very difficult. All the roads were blocked, a lot of police, firemen, but we were able to find our way. But it was, and for weeks later, you could smell the burning, the fire was still burning. So it was like it like changed our life. It was like the city now was changed, the world had changed. Everything was changed, and it was like we're living in a new kind of, this is a dark time, and it was it really, and then every time I would come back to New York, there was that hole in the landscape. I'd always come in from the airport, you could see the skyline, but the World Trade Center was no longer there. So it was always this reminder of the nightmare that we're living. It was like nothing I've ever witnessed in my life.
Can you tell us something about the day when you were when you reached Ground Zero to take these pictures?
Well, somehow I was able to get there by dodging and by getting, it was very difficult because all the roads the police were everywhere, but I was able to find a way. And I got down there and everybody was busy doing things, and I was able to sort of be in these secret places where nobody was. Like this place, there was nobody there because all the firemen and police were down trying to look for survivors, and I was in kind of secret places photographing. I went back again the next morning, and things were a little bit calmer, and then they asked for my permission.
Permission, yeah.
For my day, and then they didn't tell me to leave. They escorted me out. The day before, they said, "You got to go, leave, go. You're not supposed to be here. You got to leave now." So I would just go, and then I'd come around the back side. That happened several times. But the next morning, they kind of grabbed me, and they walked me out because they had no permission. Nobody was thinking clearly. They had no sympathy for the press or for any kind of documentation. It was.
Steve, you had an incredible life, but do you have any regrets? Anything you haven't done and would like to do?
Well, in some ways, we have a million regrets. We have regrets every day. But that's looking at it in one way. Looking at it in another way, I have absolutely no regrets at all. I mean, I would say the big picture. I'm very happy with where I am. I'm happy with my wife and daughter. I think we have a great life. I think that to think that I started on this very small newspaper with no future, it was kind of a dead-end job. It was a job that was really boring, uninteresting, and I was able, by my own wits and by some courage and by a little bit of I was able to jump in and go to a place and just take a chance. It was just all chance. But I was willing to work and to really not take no for an answer. I was going to succeed even if it killed me. I wasn't going to not, yeah. So, no, I feel very blessed and very lucky. Of course, there's a million things you could do differently, but, you know, you have to, life isn't perfect, and I think it worked out really great. I'm very, very happy with where I am at this point.
Thank you. Okay, finally, I asked Steve to choose one picture to finish, to remind us this night, and he chose this picture.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, these trees in Madagascar are just, they're kind of cartoonish. They're very funny, but it's part of nature, these beautiful trees, and there's a road that goes through them, and there's villages that these people live right there. So I went there before sunrise, and I would stay until after sunset, because again, that's the best light. So this was just around sunset, and these boys were playing with these hoops. You know, it's funny, I photographed boys playing with hoops all over the world. I bet 50, 75 years ago, boys did the same thing here in Italy and in the US probably, but these boys didn't have a phone, or they didn't have a computer or whatever. So this was their entertainment to go around. So I love this picture because it's kind of it's just this boys out doing what boys do, having a great time, you know, with friendship, going around with these hoops, and in this beautiful setting, this magical setting. And that one of my ambitions for many years was to go and visit this part of Madagascar and see these amazing trees, because I don't think they exist only in very few places in the world. So this was really great, and I think it was one of my favorite pictures.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Steve. It was an honor and a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you very much. Grazie mille. Grazie mille.
Bene, grazie a tutti voi, grazie a Steve McCarry e grazie alle sorelle Manfrotto e alla libreria Palazzo Roberti, perché avere Steve McCarry che racconta le sue foto è davvero una cosa eccezionale. E chi volesse, adesso qui ci sono i libri fotografici di Steve, e chi volesse lui glieli autografa.
It's a gift from Penne Monte Grappa and Distilleria Poli, which are from Bazzano del Grappa, especially for you. Thank you so much. Grazie Mario.